My name is Mark. I'm the founder of 1880, and I'm going to moderate the discussion tonight. I'm delighted to see there are a lot of gray-haired people in the audience, or those with very challenged hairdos. So I'm assuming that many of you are looking for a career change or a new beginning, as we call it. So you're at the right place. I also see a lot of younger people, and you're probably, hopefully not ending one career and starting another, but if you are, there's some very, very interesting people behind me who are going to share their stories with all of us and give us some insights. But before we get into that, I just want to not feel... Ganesh, how are we doing on this microphone? It sounds weird to me. So you're all okay? Okay. Yeah, everybody can hear? Okay, great, great. So 1880, we are a club in Singapore, and soon, very soon, we will be opening upstairs. So there's a much bigger facility coming. There are 4 more restaurants, 3 more bars, gym, a spa, kind of a, what we call a workspace amenities place with green screen rooms and podcast rooms and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you are a resident or tenant in Taikoo, this is now going to be your center of activity, fun, and recreation. Yay! Okay. Well, you didn't have to clap. I'm just excited about it. Okay, so with all of that underway, the sort of DNA of 1880 is we have this very weird tagline, which is inspiring conversations that change the world. And we do have that tagline, not because we like to be pretentious and arrogant, but because of the origin of kind of like the DNA of 1880, which is that my parents have hosted a weekly salon. So every single Wednesday, people come and sit around our dining room table and have a discussion. And when I say that, most of you are thinking that there's maybe 6 or 7 people sitting around a table, but in fact it's 70, 80 people. My parents had this weird design in their house that allowed many people to come, and we have now hosted over 2,400 consecutive Wednesday nights. So that means that every single Wednesday, without fail, for the last 42 years, we have welcomed people to our house to have a discussion about geopolitical events, ethical, you name it, anything under the sun, whatever world war is going on, whatever election is happening, whatever sort of issue we want to discuss, we take it on the table, and we do this in a spirit of kind of mutual respect and understanding. We like to have as controversial topics as we can, and let people come closer together by understanding the differences in opinions. And that was always the intention, and that is the intention behind 1880. It's not for a bunch of like-minded people to come around. I can't stand the term like-minded. I like people who think differently, because I learn a lot more from people that think differently from me. People who think like me, I already know, are partially insane, and I really don't want to have a conversation with that person. I have enough in my head. So this is what we do. Tonight is an example of that, though tonight's topic I think is more of an educational experience than a debate. So we're going to get into the lives and stories and moments of epiphany, if you like, with our panelists. So with that, it's my pleasure, if you would join me in welcoming to the stage, because they're already behind me, our 3 panelists, and I'll ask them each to introduce themselves. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Hi there. You ready? I happen to know that Lisa's very nervous, so we're going to help her get through that. Ask her really difficult questions. Lisa, why don't you kick us off? Introduce yourself. Why are you here?
Oh God, big question. My name's Lisa Tarquini. I came to Hong Kong 14 years ago to be the nutrition manager at the Hong Kong Sports Institute. So I've worked with Max since 2014. I left in 2020 when my second child was born, and I now work in women's health, specifically menopause. So I have a company called the Menopause Space, and we'll delve into that a little bit later.
Half the room just got very awkward. Okay, Vriko.
Testing.
Okay, use this one.
I think it works now. Testing? Yeah, it works. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Vriko. I'm an entrepreneur in Hong Kong. I have a skincare and hair company, And I'm born and raised here. Very happy to be having this conversation with everyone today. I'm also a BJJ athlete, and last year I started running, and now I'm an ultra marathoner.
Fantastic. We're going to get a lot into that and learn about how difficult that was. Max?
Hey, yeah, my name's Max Woodward. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I've been a professional rugby player for the last sort of 11 years, taken me all around the world, and it's been my, since as early as I can remember, it's been my dream to be a professional rugby player. And in the context of talking tonight, I've decided to call it a day. So I'm kind of in the unknown space of what on earth is going to happen next. Not sure what my skills are and where to go with it all. And I'm also going to be opening up the gym with 1880 called the QUARRY. So we'll talk about how we're going to maybe transition into that.
Yeah, okay, so I'm glad you said that. So Max, you and I met probably a year and a half ago. You were kind enough to give me a bit of a workout, which took me about a month to recover from. And you know, with such an engaging and wonderful conversation, we started talking about what we're doing here, and that has now led to us forming a joint venture to open the gym here. So we're going to get into the topic a little bit more, but in fact, I think what you're doing is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, which is going from your professional career as an athlete to maybe teaching and helping others to get on that journey as well. And so I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to have both of you here, but Max, I'm going to pick on you first. So I arrived here this afternoon. I flew from Singapore, and I watched a documentary with Shaun White. Nobody knows who Shaun White is. Shaun White is a Olympic snowboarder. He was a professional snowboarder, incredibly talented, won the gold medal, I think 4 Olympics in a row. And so follow his whole life through the documentary. He's 35 years old, and he's about to do his last run in his professional career. He's going to retire after this run. And the journalist asked him, what are you feeling? Like, what's next for you? And he said, well, I don't know how to feel because all I've ever known my entire life is snowboarding. And tomorrow, I don't know who I am anymore. My identity is completely wrapped up in my profession, and tomorrow that profession stops, and I have no identity after that, which is an absurd thing to say, but we can understand that the stress that this poor gentleman was under led him to believe that. And of course, now Shaun has gone on to do incredible things. So, Max, without making you really depressed right now, what are the emotions that you're feeling going around kind of retiring from professional sport? Let me start with that question.
It's more just a massive part of it is nervousness about what is next. I've had a training diary since I was probably about 10, where every day I would have woken up and my plan was to get better at rugby. So, everything had purpose through that avenue. So I could just be, all right, what do I need to work on? I need to work on footwork. I need to work on skills. I need to get stronger. And it's been like, I've had that vision of what my week and day is going to look like for, actually more than 10 years. And so it's more, you wake up and you're, actually what's scary is feeling, I'm obviously grateful, life is wonderful, but it's that feeling of aimlessness a little bit, where the short-term things I was doing don't have any sort of ramifications to anything towards I'm doing long-term. So I don't, why go and train? Why do all this? And I think the aimlessness is what I've been really struggling with in the last few weeks.
Yeah. Just to tee this up, did you achieve all of your professional goals as an athlete?
No.
I told you this was going to get raw.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, and what does that mean, having unrequited ambition?
So we had, I started to professional sevens with Hong Kong in 2014. Rugby sevens became an Olympic sport around about that time. I think it had been previously, but that's like a trivia question that we talk about another time. But so since 2014, my dream is to become an Olympian. And I was going to share, like, I have my own Olympic story, which is that I've never been to the Olympics. And that's so 2014, so each time, it might get a bit long-winded, so just shut me up if I need to. So Olympics in 2016, Rio, the Hong Kong have quite a good chance of qualifying. They just have to beat all the other teams in Asia, Japan, Korea, Sri Lanka. You win that tournament, you become an Olympian. So 2015, we're sort of 10-0 up at halftime against Japan. We're like, this actually could happen. So we lost. There's like the inevitable heartbreak, but how old was I? 25. You're pretty much thinking, well, actually, it doesn't really matter because there's another Olympics in 4 years. I can go for that. It'd be pretty cool. It's pretty sweet. Training. That's always the goal. Always the goal. So then 2015. So then 2020 rolls around. Tokyo is the host in the Olympics. So Japan auto qualify. Our biggest rivals. All the talk is that Hong Kong have to win this. This is Hong Kong's one. This is Hong Kong. And we play in the final against Korea. The winning team becomes an Olympic team representation for your country. Goes to extra time. We're winning. They score a try in the last second of extra time. No Olympics. So okay, that's challenging. That's when I started to have conversations within myself whether could I do another 4 years. But actually, at that age, you're okay. I'm like, it was tough. That was really tough to bounce back. But then you start to form another plan in your head. Okay, next Olympics. What am I going to do? So we build up everything, 4 years, 4 years, going through all the training, builds up to this pinnacle of the event, exactly the same tournament. We're in the final against Japan. They score in the last second of extra time, no Olympics. And then so you wake up the next day after that one. This was less than a year ago. This is in November last year. And you go, well, that's the first time it hit me where I was like, what's next? I don't know. And it's very difficult to have any form of motivation sport-wise because that dream has gone. And then I'd love to hear about how people would like to share with how you guys overcome change. But that process now is what I'm dealing with. What's next? How do I reposition my goals? And sort of like try and have drive for whatever endeavor is going to be next. Okay, we'll let you take a breath. Thanks for sharing all that with us. Vriko, you have all three of you have unique stories, but your story is special, and I love it. Let's start with you as an entrepreneur. How did that journey start? Because you started your first company at 21, is that right? Yeah. Tell us about that journey.
So I actually, in the last year of my university, I started my first company. And then it failed miserably within a month. And I lost almost all of my saving. So the stubborn self that I was 21, I was like, I'm not going to ask my parents for more money. I never asked them for the startup fund. It's just that I don't want to ask them for anything to fix my era.
Before you move on, what was the business?
So the first business was I was importing clothes from Australia and sell them in Hong Kong. So it was a fast fashion e-commerce business. And I've always been in e-commerce. I've been in e-commerce now for 12 years.
And did you do that simply because you were traveling back and forth and it became somewhat easy? Or did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I had a conversation with my professor when I was finishing up my final year project, and he was like, "What do you want to do?" And my answer to him was, "Definitely not gonna 9 to 5 is just not my vibe." And then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna start my business," but ended up 12 years later, I can tell you it's a 24/7 job. Yeah. So I did not achieve my purpose of not working. But anyway, so I failed my first business. The reason why I was doing that was I wasn't thinking. Like, I was just grabbing whatever that is easy to me, and I just, like, let's test it out. Fail it. And then, because I went to school in Norway, so I had a return ticket back to Norway at the time. And I'm not sure, like, if any of you have been to Bergen. It is the second, like, biggest city in Norway. They're famous for their fish market. So they have one of the biggest, busiest fish market in Norway. I got offered to work there for the summer, so like 4 months, working at the fish market every day from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., like cutting fish, making sandwiches, cleaning the floor, waiting table, everything. So I started my second company at the same time of me starting to work at the fish market. The second business, it was a handbag business. So this time I think clearly, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And it's also e-commerce, but we roll on the rise of social media and influencer marketing, and it became very successful. But the changing point of me starting my second business to it actually took off was actually one night towards the end of the season at the fish market. My boss at the time told me that the investor of the fish market is coming, and he asked, do you want to come and pitch your business to the investor? And I was like, okay, sure. All I got was broken jeans, smelly, fishy shoes, but I show up anyway. And I remember the changing point of my life was that moment, because as soon as I walk in to that room, other bosses at the fish market were there. They recognized me. They know that I'm the Chinese fish girl. And then they were like, what are you doing here? Just clean up the table and leave. Feel like you don't belong here. Like, why are you doing at this investor meeting? So I had a choice. Like, I could either suck it up and then just stay, or I could just take off, because it was very, like, humbling, right? And I stayed. And that night, I walked out of that meeting with my first ever consignment deal, and I got my handbags into 30 different department stores in Norway. And that was the changing point of my career. And from that point onward, I built the business to 7-figure monthly, Hong Kong dollar. And I exited the business within 3 years.
You exited, so someone acquired the company?
My competitor actually bought me out.
So you weren't locked in after the acquisition. You were free to go.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I think that was like at the time, because I've always been in fashion business. Like, my first successful company required me to go to Fashion Week all the time, talk to fashion editors and all that. And that was actually, after going through that, I realized that that wasn't my vibe either. Like,
So let's fast forward to the kind of epiphany, because what we talked about before, what I read about you, is that you had not run a kilometer in one go in your entire life.
Yeah.
And then you decided, maybe you can tell the story.
Okay, I'll make it short. So because I've been building my business, my career in the past 10 years, I haven't been like spending time on myself, I feel like. And at one point, I was over 300 pounds. So I started working out, and it took me a year to like lose 100 pounds, and it was through weightlifting and Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, because I got into MMA. And then that's how I got connected with Lululemon. And I've been with the brand for 5 years. So last year, they asked me, they were like, hey, Vriko, do you run? And I was like, yeah, every now and then. But the truth is, I've never ran 1 kilometer ever continuously in my life, ever. Yeah. Like, running is just, no. But then they were like, well, if you're interested, would you like to come join us for this campaign called Further? I was like, what is Further? It is a 6-day ultra marathon where the one rule is that you go as far as you can for 6 days. And of course I said yes. I was like, sure, let's see what I can do. So within 11 months, I get myself from not being able to run 1 kilometer continuously to running 2,700 kilometers in preparation for this race to get myself to the start line. And I successfully finished the 6-day ultra marathon, and I ran 303 kilometers, which is 7.5 marathons.
That's unbelievable. So from never having run a kilometer, you ran 7.5 marathons in 6 days.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And what has happened since then? That was in March, is that right?
Yeah, that was testing. That was in March. So actually, as I was hearing about, you know, the feeling that you're going through, Max, I wanted to just be fully transparent. Like, you know, of course it is wonderful, you know, to test my limit and everyone see that, wow, like you did that, you know, you achieved that goal. But then the reality is, after March, I've just been searching, like, what's next? It was that feeling of, oh shit, like I trained for 11 months and what now? Like, because the reality is, no matter how hard I train, I don't think I will be the best ultra runner in the world. But I still want to find out what's next, right? So it has been like just lots of, I mean, I go to event, I tell my story, I meet people, I'm writing a book, but still, you know, the aimlessness is there. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for sharing your journey. Lisa, tell us about your story, because it's pretty emotional.
How could you like?
Okay, I'm going to do the speaker's prerogative here. Can we get a couple of drinks up here? I'll take whatever Benji's serving. Would you like a glass of wine?
I'd love a glass of wine.
Would you like anything?
Water is fine, thank you.
Max? Okay, a glass of wine.
Spot the Irish
Okay,
one.
there we go. Yeah. So,
God, I don't know
Lisa,
where to start.
please. Tell us about your story. So, if you want me to ask specific questions, what happened when you were 32 years old?
Well, just a little bit before that, I met my husband, also in the crowd,
husband?
on a beach in Dubai. We were both working in the Middle East, and I decided that I was going to exit the Middle East, and he said, well, I'm going to Rome, why don't you come with me? I'm not going to give up on that opportunity. So I went to Rome, and a love story. We had the best time, drove down the Amalfi Coast, we cycled, he taught me how to cycle, bought my first road bike, loved it. And then I got diagnosed with cancer. And that was in kind of May 2011. And I was 31 years old, living my love story, which was, you know, a bit different. We went through some testing in Rome, and after a little operation, this Roman surgeon was slapping me round the face, telling me that, you know, I was going to have a radical hysterectomy. But you're beautiful, you'll be fine. Why you cry? Why you cry like those people from Naples? You know, it was like, get them out. So we left and we went home to Ireland, and I saw some doctors in Ireland, and they said, we will take away the tumour. Took away the tumour, and we went back to Rome. And 6 months later, I was diagnosed again with, it was a recurrence. So I got diagnosed twice. And so I started 2 weeks after my 32nd birthday with 6 months of chemoradiation. After my first 11-hour chemotherapy session, I was in menopause. And I didn't know what that meant until 2017.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just for everybody's benefit, after an 11-hour brutal session of chemotherapy that started the onset of menopause, which is an effect that chemotherapy can have on women, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and so did you know that you were going through menopause? Was it difficult for you to diagnose yourself? What were some of the indicators?
You cry so hard the snot drips off your top lip. Yeah, so it was. So the chemotherapy was once every 21 days because it was so harsh. But it was the third one that it kind of became very dark, and I wanted the world to end. And so the oncologist was trying to explain to me that it was because I was in menopause and my mental health was being affected because, for those of you who don't know, we have estrogen receptors all over our body, in our brains, our heart, our bones, our gut, our pelvic floor, everywhere. And as you lose estrogen, which mine just got emptied like a bucket, it didn't go down gradually, that affected my mental health. So that was, yeah. But then you didn't know, was that the treatment? Was that the fact that you had cancer? You didn't know if you were going to survive, or menopause, so you were in it. You got to go through it, not round up, yeah.
So you're living this fairy tale love story. Suddenly you got a diagnosis, and then that diagnosis comes back after the first treatment. And then suddenly you're faced with something that you didn't think was going to happen until you were your mother's age. Right? Like
yeah,
a
for sure.
very unexpected occurrence.
Yeah.
You can successfully beat cancer, but now you've got this thing to deal with as well.
Yeah.
And so what happened in that journey, and what about that journey led to what you do today?
So I went after treatment. For those of you who don't know Northern Ireland, it's absolutely miserable, wet and cold. So when I got the phone call to say that there was no evidence of disease, Marco was on the email or the computer booking the flight back to Rome. So we went back to Rome, and then a little bit like you guys, when you're training for something, I had a schedule, so I had to be back every 3 months to have a scan. And for anybody who's been through any medical issues, that scan's anxiety is like awful. But you had something that you had to get to, and then it was a year. And then we were living in this sleepy town just south of Rome called Anzio. There's nobody there nine months of the year. And I said to Marco, like, I need my life back, you know. I had this big job in the Middle East, and I was just like, I'm not like retirement age yet. So I Googled sports nutrition jobs, Hong Kong, because Marco had lived in Hong Kong before, and up came the job. And within 3 weeks, I had the job. So we moved here, and they put me in a dungeon with no windows, and I just got on with the job, but I didn't understand that the side effects of menopause are brain fog, memory loss, depression, all of these different things. And to be honest, I thought I had dementia. That's how bad the memory loss was. I lost my husband in a mall. We just arrived. We live out in Clearwater Bay, and we went to Chunkwano, and I'd left him to go to the toilet, but I didn't bring my phone, and I couldn't physically, I didn't know how to get back to him, and I felt physically sick, and I thought, shit, like, is this it now? Have I got dementia? Is this like the next thing? But I kept getting up. I went to work. Some days I shouldn't have been driving to work. The brain fog was that bad. And then a GP saw me and that begged me to let her help me. And she gave me extra medication. And with 2 weeks, she changed my life. Yeah. So that was in 2017.
And maybe explain for everybody what you do today.
So now I educate every human being the impact of menopause. One, that it's not an older woman's issue. Two, men are impacted as well, which my husband can attest to. It's not just us that go through it, men go through it. But also, menopause stole many things from me. It stole my fertility, it stole my confidence, and it almost then stole my career, which I feel like kind of defined me as a human being because I'm such a career-driven person. And thankfully, there are solutions out there. So it's not doom and gloom if you actually know what's happening. But we don't get educated in school. We don't get educated by our mothers or our grandmothers or even conversations with our girlfriends. Nobody talks about it. But literally it will affect 100% of women who are 51% of the world right now. 100% of them will go through it. Yes, at varying degrees. But also the people who surround them will go through it. And, you know, we were married 11 years this year, and it hasn't been easy. But, you know, obviously thank you for putting up with me. But I suppose one of the conversations that I remember having with Marco was one morning where my mood wasn't great. And I was like, it's not my fault. And, you know, I didn't ask for this. And he said, well, I didn't ask for it either. But these conversations are so important to make change so that women aren't shamed. You know, it's not taboo. You know, if you are struggling, you can go and chat to somebody and find a solution, but also a problem shared is a problem halved. And so we all need to be aware of it. So that's my job now. I'm on an absolute mission.
And you take that job to individuals, but also to companies.
Yeah, so we've got an event on the 18th of October called What the Fog, because actually what the actual fog. And it's this year we are closing the menopause gap at work across Asia Pacific, because 1 in 10 women leave corporate work, leave their job because of menopause, because they don't understand what's happening. You've got a CEO, a C-suite, like when I was working with Max and the guys and these athletes who are 1% of the population, they expect you to know the science just like that. And I literally felt like an imposter because I couldn't get the science out of my brain. Even though I knew it, I wasn't capable of answering their questions fast enough, which made me second guess myself all the time. So you put a woman on a board, she's only human, she's going to feel like that. So how are they being supported in the workforce? So that's what I'm trying to change. And also it's a business cost for anybody who here is working in the corporate world. Japan have just released their figures this year in the Nikkei. 1.9 trillion yen, so 1.2 billion US dollars annually they're losing to menopause because women are leaving the workforce. They're also turning up and not doing their job, so presenteeism, but also sick leave and medical costs as well. So we all have to be educated on it from a human cost, but also a business cost.
Okay, amazing. Thanks for sharing your journey. So, yeah, so we have 3 really what people call type A individuals here. I think they're another term that is used called strivers. And what I'm going to guess is that is true for most of the people in this room, if not everybody in the room. We all strive for success. We're probably all individually talented and have had successes, and we get addicted to success. So people talk about the addiction of success and the fallacy of achievement, which means that you keep trying to get better and better, win more matches, climb the corporate ladder, get more money, whatever your barometer is, we keep going for it. Whenever we get there, we find it very unsatisfying. So it's typical of high achievers that they achieve a goal and they go, well, that was great, and less than a minute later, they're contemplating their next goal. And you just want to keep feeding that. So what I want to ask the 3 of you in a kind of a weird way, because you're very, very different, but there's a common thread here, is do you know what your driver was of your success in the first part of your life? So you didn't talk much about what you were doing before, but you were a corporate person, you were very good at your job, and what I'm guessing is you were in a highly competitive environment and you sought to win, and you did. And so I want you to, sort of the 3 of you, contemplate what were the things that were important to you as your goal. What was your mission? You know, it could be financial independence. It could be Olympic gold medal, but I think before Olympics became it's how good you want to be. What was the mindset of striving for excellence? Is that confusing enough for you?
No, it's fine.
Okay, Max, you want to give it a go?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. I think I don't know, with you guys as well, it's you kind of just want, it's I guess more of a deep thing. So do you want success for yourself, or do you want success for other people? Or do you want to tell people you're successful? Which I think that external motivator is quite intoxicating for a lot of people. I think to be honest, with sport, you know, at school and stuff, sport was my passion. I just wanted to excel in everything, and it was that competitive drive that I just wanted to achieve, that kind of organically pushed me towards a sport that I was relatively competent at, which and then you start to feel that success starts to fuel you, and then you start to kind of contemplate dreams in your mind about what that could really mean. And I think my biggest motivator for anything was how much I loved playing sport. What can I do to make that facilitate my lifestyle? So how can I make sport my job? That for me was my number one motivator. And I think I could have gone in many different ways. Like, I think, you know, if you're you could be whatever it might be. You know, a coach is someone who's passionate about sport, that it's their job. But like, ultimately for me, that was my motivator, is like, can I, you know, like, you think when you're younger, like, every day you're going to have to work and, you know, provide and do all that and things like that. But for me, it was, I love what I do. How can I make that my job?
Vriko, you started a company when you were 21.
I think I went through phases, and then I think the very first motivator that got me to start my business or do everything is that I'm innately a very curious person.
Okay.
I like to find out what's on the other side. So when I started my first business, I was like, okay. So, you know, you get out of school and then you have no money, right? So I was like, okay, I want money. How can I get more money? I was like, okay, I don't want a 9-to-5 job. So I'm curious, right? So I realized that, oh, you can actually make money online. Okay. So I just started e-commerce, and then you realize, oh, you got the website set up, you got the product. How do you sell it? So because I didn't study any of that in school. I studied translation and Scandinavian politics, which completely unrelated to what I do. So yes, I think curiosity was what got me started. And yes, I think along the way, I found success, right? I found money. So I got more hungry. I was like, I want more.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Max, it's very clear. You're an athlete. You do well on the field. The coaches say, hey, you can be captain of the team, or you can go up to the A team. It's very easy, the progression. Entrepreneurs are the weirdest animals to me, and I love them because whenever you ask them, why did you start the company, they have a very simple answer. Oh, because no one else was doing it. Oh, because I had an opportunity. But actually, it's a huge leap, and most people don't make it. And many, many people want to make it, and they think about it all their lives, and they get to the end of their life, and they go, I wish I'd done it. But you did it very, very early on. What I'd love to figure out, if you have the answer, is what made you think that you could do it better than someone else?
I think I didn't think of it at all. Like, at the time, I think I was just young enough to not think too much. Now I coach, like, startups. I coach, like, you know, female businesses in Hong Kong to leverage social media or, like, you know, online tours, because I work with Meta, like the company that owns Facebook and Instagram. So I work with them, work with the APAC office to coach businesses. So when I talk to, like, new business owners now, they always ask me, it's like, how did you do it? Like, what were you thinking? What are the strategy? What are the business plan? Who are your target audience? And I was like, I didn't think of it. Like, I didn't think of nothing, because I think I was so young that I realized I have to testing out to let the market know what works and what doesn't. Like, for example, even my business now, I started out doing skincare, and then I did it for 5 or 6 years. And then during the pandemic, our hair care just blew up. I didn't expect that. And we're launching in Sephora next month.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
like, I didn't plan any of it, but thank you. But I think ultimately, I think the answer to that is you have to pair curiosity with hard work, and then, like, along the way, it will work out. Because if you have hard work, but you are not curious to learn what is happening, especially in my industry, because e-commerce, like digital marketing, everything is very fast-paced.
So inspire the future entrepreneurs in the room. You have certain qualities which you're not sharing with us, and those are, incredible perseverance. For someone to set a goal who's never run and then run 313 kilometers 11 months later, that's persistence. And worked in a fish factory as the only Chinese person in all of Norway, I'm guessing, at the time. But also resilience. And the resilience comes from the hard knocks that you take as an entrepreneur. And many times when you hang that shingle on the door, you can't take it off until the business actually dies. All your employees can leave, the ship can be sinking, but you have to stay, and you did, and you do. Where does that come from for you? Where did you get that?
I think it's stubbornness too, because the very
Did you say it's stupidness?
No, stupidness, yes. Stupidity, yes, but also stubbornness.
Stubbornness, okay,
Like
good.
the fact that, because when you have to be stubborn in a good way, I guess, but when you already started something, and I think as you expanded your business, expanded to different market, you're carrying more people, more lives on your shoulder, right? So you're doing more. So I think that was also why I think I made the transition from fashion to what I do right now. Because, following up with what you were asking earlier, actually, that I think, yes, I got so hungry with success and money, and I realized that, at one point in my 20s, I was like, I'm so good at this, I'm flashy, and I want to impress people. But then actually ultra marathon, like running an ultra marathon, confronted me with my biggest insecurity. I was terrified of running my entire life, because the deep down, super honest answer to it is that I'm just not good at running, and I'm used to being good at things. Because, being an entrepreneur, like, I'm good at this. I know I'm good at this. But I think part of me know that I need to suck it up and actually face what I'm not good at in order to learn something. So I said yes to run the ultra marathon, and in that 11 months was a lot of, I broke down so many times. I couldn't run 1 kilometer to start with. It took me 2 months to run 1 kilometer continuously. And then another, 2 or 3 months to get to 5K. And then I couldn't run a half marathon distance continuously until day 4 at further. Jeez. So the thing is, I realized one thing. If there's one very key lesson I took away from the last year, was that it was, all the success, all the things that, you think you want in life, they're great when you want to impress people. But it was your scar, it was your vulnerability, it was what you went through, like your lived experience that can actually connect you with other people and impact other people, hopefully. So that was my take.
Okay, amazing. So a little bit of research on entrepreneurs. The studies would say that entrepreneurs generally have one common trait among all entrepreneurs. I don't know if any of you can guess what that is. It's just a simple belief that they're good at something. So you can investigate most entrepreneurs, and you will find that they were good at one thing early on in their life, and that thing, that gave them the self-confidence that no matter what, I can pull through. So it can be they were good at playing backgammon, or they were good on the football field, or they were good at math, or they were good at drawing. It doesn't matter. It's just that sense of achievement of having worked at something and knowing that they can achieve it. That is the single most important trait that is common among most successful entrepreneurs. They say all successful entrepreneurs. The other interesting piece of data is that, anybody know what the average age right now of what they call a successful entrepreneur is?
Anybody know? Anybody have a guess? Anybody want to say a number? 25. How much? You have a microphone. 25? Anybody? 40? Anybody else? 35? Okay, it's 45. Research is showing that successful entrepreneurs are starting their business at 45. Starting their business at 45. That is happening in first world, OECD, and anyway. So I find that fascinating because most of us think that it's quite a bit younger. Okay, so Lisa, I want to ask you, what was your driver and what gave you that, maybe it wasn't confidence, but what pushed you as a young executive?
I suppose I don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people in my world would, I suppose being a leader, like when I was younger.
You have natural leadership ability?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I right in understanding that you came here to basically become a nutritionist for the
Hong Kong Sports Institute. Yeah.
The Hong Kong Sports Institute. So you're dealing with both men and women across every sport, is that correct?
There was 16 when I started, and then it went up to 20.
16 sports, which means, I'm guessing, thousands of athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you are instructing them on how to...
No, I've got a team of 10.
Okay, you got a team of... I'm trying to build you up here, but let's go with you were instructing thousands of athletes on how to achieve peak performance. Is that correct? Let's go with yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you have natural leadership ability, something that you knew about yourself from a young age that is pushing you forward constantly. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when I played international netball, so when I was 16,
okay.
I became the captain of the Northern Ireland netball team. And then at 18, I was the captain of the Northern Ireland netball team. So from a young age, somebody saw something in me at that time that I didn't see myself. In the job that I had in Bristol before I moved to the Middle East, it was the first job that I had after I did my master's, and went out, drank too much, and didn't turn up one day for work. And instead of sacking me, my manager, the director, gave me a promotion to see me go. So she saw something.
Irish as well?
No, she was Welsh. And then I got a job. So there was nowhere to go then. After 6 years, I had nowhere to rise. So then I left for change and then took on a senior leadership role for the UAE Armed Forces. So I worked for the UAE military, and I had a leadership position then. And then again, there was nowhere to go. I couldn't make change and I couldn't make impact. So then I got bored, and it was time to leave. And so I think in all of the roles that I've had as an entrepreneur, not as an entrepreneur, as a leader, if there's too many barriers to change, then I need to move on. If I feel like I've done the job that I'm supposed to do, then I need to leave and let somebody else follow and take on to the next level. I was listening to a podcast the other day with the guy who set up, Salesforce. Yeah. And so he's a serial entrepreneur. And he was saying that, serial entrepreneurs get to a point where they've done the job, they have the concept, they've taken it to market, and then they have to move on because they're bored, and then they get on. And I hope that's not the case with this next project that I'm on, because now I have purpose. Before it was a job, where now I have purpose. So my purpose now is to make sure every woman reaches her full potential. So hopefully I don't get bored, and hopefully there's more that I can do in this area.
So this is a brilliant statement, and thank you for jumping forward. Save me the trouble of asking the question. So a book that I will highly recommend to anybody who is considering a transition is From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks. And in this book, he talks about young athletes, musicians, artists, entrepreneurs, high-achieving people,
they have what we call fluid intelligence. So fluid intelligence is that you have a skill, you're an athlete, you maybe excel academically, or you're a great communicator, or whatever those things are, but that is your fluid intelligence. And that can propel you to write the best compositions in music, to code the best and build a great company, to be a tremendous athlete, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What happens at 40 is that we start to decline in fluid intelligence. Athletes know this better than anybody. You just can't perform the same way. But the truth is that musical, people who write music, Beethoven, Bach, all of their great compositions were in their early years, and they really struggled to do anything meaningful after the age of 40. And this is where people who succeed well early in life can become very, very unhappy in their later life. What I'm assuming is all of our goals are to be happy in later life, right? So what Arthur Brooks talks about is crystallized intelligence. As your curve goes down from fluid intelligence, you start to develop your crystallized intelligence, which is really wisdom, which leads people to teach more, or take on consulting roles, or try to be in some sort of a purposeful education role where you're sharing your wisdom with the next generation. And people who successfully do that and lock into this crystallized intelligence wind up way happier and way more functional in their older years. So, Max, what I want to ask you based on that is, where do you see your crystallized intelligence, taking fruition? What do you think that looks like? Because we've had a lot of conversations as we've tried to conceive this business, and I know you're a very deep thinker on many topics. So what is the thing that you think would give you the most satisfaction?
I think with training and how much I've enjoyed training myself and and overcoming injury and experimenting on my body and learning how incredible the human body is definitely a segue into instilling the confidence in as many people as possible that their bodies are also malleable and resilient, no matter what your training age is. And of course, the benchmarks of sort of physical success might be different. It might not be weight on the bar. It might be, can I pick up something from the floor? Can I scoop my two kids up in my arms? I think for me, how I want to crystallize that is bringing some form of training to everyone. And it sounds really super cliche, but it's everyone is an athlete in their own way. It's I've trained as an athlete for majority of my career. My training is going to have to look different now. My training will have to look different now than it did 10 years ago. I can see that just based on numbers. So for what I want to do is to be able to instill a confidence and a belief in everyone's body as a trainer. I think can I ask you a question, Lisa? Because then we were saying the problem with this is that's my purpose, and it's interesting to talk about change because your purpose is bringing education towards, but actually what does that look like? Is to be successful in that realm and reach as many people as I would like to, I also have to know how to write marketing things on Canva. When I sit down and do that now, I'm I've got no idea. And it's that change is really challenging. It's I have the dream of my what I would like to give, but I'm not going to be able to do that unless I'm sat at a desk working online for quite a few hours a day. So the dream can't really manifest itself unless I do all the small stuff. I've been doing some programming, so it took me 4 hours to work out how to put a pound sign on a document in Canva. I want to train people. I don't want to just do that.
Yeah, we don't want you to do that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to. It's how am I gonna? It's gonna be really, really challenging to do that, and for you to reach people, right? Yeah.
We had this conversation just before everybody arrived this evening, and I hate social media. I'm good on LinkedIn, it's so hard because you're so vulnerable, and I'm a 44-year-old woman with 2 kids under 5 who apparently has naturally wrinkly face, as my husband told me one time. And literally,
No, I'm kidding.
when you're sleep deprived and you have to go in front of the camera to put out an Instagram post to raise your followers, it's like, no, that's not my work. I don't want to do that. But it's education, and if I can just say, also we were saying, being out in the Sports Institute as a professional athlete and as somebody who had a job. Not very many people know that actually exists until you meet athletes or you meet somebody like me across a bar with a glass of wine. And coming out into the big wide world, you're so vulnerable. And over the last few years, the learning that I've had, the trajectory is like that. You learn in your masters, it's like this. But going out on your own and being an entrepreneur is like boom, and you have to know everything. Do you agree?
Testing. I think it's good that you need to go through all of that to do what you like. Because, because the thing is, a lot of people just glamorify the idea of, you own your business and then you can do whatever you want. But the day-to-day doesn't look like that. And that's how, I think, I think this year, or maybe starting from last year, was already a good year to start your own business, because now we have AI. So I actually dedicate a lot of my work to AI. And then, of course, we still have a small team and it helps. But yeah, Canva, you can actually click the word and then right-click it and magic write, and they will write it for you now.
I tried to play around with that, but I couldn't. I'll have a go at it.
Okay, we're not doing...
Not with my topic.
All of a sudden, we open an Excel training course. The interesting thing that just happened is each of you identified an obstacle that is in the way of you achieving the new goal, let's say, that you don't like social media, and you don't like figuring out where the pound sign is in Canva. So there are 2 expressions. One is the ego is the enemy, and the obstacle is the way, right? So when you find the obstacle, that's where you need to go. That's a theory. And many times, what I think the curse is that we use the success in the first half of our life, we use the things that helped us succeed into the second half of our life. And that's not relevant anymore. We also use the same goals. And that is a recipe for disaster. And you're not going to achieve an Olympic medal in the next stage of... I didn't mean to say... I don't want to break your dreams here. But I'm guessing you're not going to go for another sport. So it's the process of reevaluating what those goals can be. And you have a very, very clear mission right now. And purpose, and I think that must be quite liberating. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it gets me up in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm so driven by what I'm doing. I think about it. I'm thinking about the panel speakers at 4:30 this morning instead of just having an extra hour in bed. And it's just, how do I make this change? How do I get this right? How do I do that? And when you're so driven, which I sat across the table from an investor the other day, and they told me that I might scare people because I'm so driven, because I want it done yesterday. But that's okay, right?
It's absolutely okay.
But yeah, it's just that drive. And also, like you, and I'm so grateful for you saying this, I want financial freedom. I want to make money. And, menopause is a $600 billion industry. So I have a purpose, but I also want to make it my job, because I don't want to have to go back to a dungeon or a 9-to-5. Sure. But like you, when you were in Norway, I'll do whatever it takes. If it doesn't work out, so what? Go and get a job. That's where the ego then can't get in the way, because if you've got to pay the bills and you've got kids, you just got to suck it up, Yeah.
Vriko, do you have something you want to add? No? Okay. So I wanted to see if there are any questions out there. People want to ask anything of our panelists.
or of the room in general. Do we have a roaming mic, Ganesh? No? Do you want to roam with this one? Okay. Remember when you couldn't share microphones during COVID? Do you remember that?
Hello.
We weren't allowed to. Anyway. Go for it.
Lisa,
Hi. Welcome.
the women investors will not feel scared.
Yeah, they will.
Really?
They don't talk about menopause either.
No.
A lot of women in C-suites
They won't.
don't want to talk about it either. It's
Sorry, your comment was women investors?
They're scared of
Yeah.
you and the topic and being driven.
It's
and-
aging. So we still have to get past that. So it's still going to take time. So it's still very early doors.
Yeah.
So I'm only literally dipped my toe in the pool, and it's going to take a lot of education for women to let their barriers down. Because if you think about women now in CEO positions, right? The average age of a CEO is 54, right? So a female CEO has gone through many different societal, cultural, whatever it is, taboos to kind of get to that. She's fought her way there. To show a little bit of weakness, to say that she may be hormonally challenged, is not a game that she wants to play. So it's how do we then educate, I suppose, the 40-year-olds, the perimenopause, to have a voice so that, well, no, I can still do the job, I just need better medical insurance, and I just need better solutions in the workplace. So we're still fighting that battle, but hopefully in the next few years it will change. Yeah.
Well, you're opening the space for everyone, so thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment.
Thank you.
Just throw your hand up if you've got a question. We'll move the mic around. Don't be shy, just ask. Come, thanks, Simon.
Hi, there's been a lot of talk about not achieving things, not being Olympian, but have you been able to enjoy your successes? Or do you immediately move on from your successes? Like Asian Games, Max, it's not nothing. It's pretty substantial. You be able to enjoy that. Doing the ultra marathon, have you been able to enjoy that, or do you move straight on?
Yeah, I love that question.
It's always reflective, isn't it? I think we definitely have a negativity bias of things we don't achieve, and I'm actively trying to be a bit more positive and have reflections on things that I like. Ultimately, prior to rugby being an Olympic sport, if my goal in life was to become a professional rugby player, then I'm very, very happy with myself that I've achieved that, and I like to look back on that and see it as like an overarching success in my career. I think it's a good trigger to just be positive and enjoy things that have gone your way.
So just to add on that, the thing that's been in my mind is that you've been the captain of the team, of the national team, of the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens team for how many years?
8 years, yeah.
8 years, and that's a huge thing. That in of itself, what you've done for the team, what you've done for the other players, what you've done for Hong Kong is an incredible accomplishment. Do you ever reflect on that and go, "Yay, go Max"?
Not as much, really,
No,
to be honest.
right?
But I think because you kind of just get lost in the day to day. Like I think when I reflect back on things that I reflect positively on, what I loved the most was being with everyone day to day and being in a team environment and actually having a goal, a collective goal that we can all go for, irrespective of whatever the goal was.
Yeah.
Having a goal together was the most engaging thing, and that's I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Would either of you like to answer Simon's question? Add anything to that?
No, I was just following up with what you were saying, right, Max? It's I think I didn't fully enjoy it while it happens, but once I got to the finish line, I do. I feel very proud and go around and tell people, hey, guess what? I'm an ultra marathoner now. But yes, I think what you were saying, I think the best part of any sports is the people. You get to share that one goal and you all try your very best to go through it, and you experience the highest highs and the lowest lows together. And that thing, like, you just can't beat that.
No? Okay. Do we have any more questions? Anybody? Anything? Yes. Thanks, Ganesh.
Well, thanks for sharing your lovely story. My question is, there are a lot of people and like even a family member who worries you and who loves you. So sometimes when you try to do something new, they're coming up. I mean, they're telling you there are millions of reasons why you shouldn't do that. So I was wondering whether you have any mentors or friends who always like it motivates you and always say the good words, and maybe also to you, given that you already have a chance to talk to many different like entrepreneurs, success. So whether there's any like trait, how they surround themselves with those like motivators.
I think you've got to pick your inner circle, and you've got to pick people who give you energy, and you'll know that because when you leave a room, you'll be smiling and you'll be beaming. I heard something yesterday about couch people. When you like go and see somebody, or when you're surrounded by people who just make you want to lie on the couch, they're energy zappers. I call them mood hoovers, They're literally not your people. So then you have to choose how you surround yourself. And you're the leading lady in your own life. Pick your people, yeah, and let the others go.
So, thank you for your question. I think when I said yes to run a 6-day ultra marathon, I remember going to a run club because I wanted to practice. And people like saw how I run, right? I'm significantly slower than most runners. And then they were like, oh, what are you training for? I was like, yeah, I'm training for a 6-day ultra marathon. They'd be like, what are you thinking? They were like, you're gonna need, like, some of them were like really harsh. They were like, you're gonna need knee replacement before you get to the start line. But the thing is, like what Lisa said, you have to pick your people. Like, if I listened to that lady, then, well, like, I wouldn't even get to the start line, right? But I remember I also felt like an imposter when I went to the first meetup at Further, where I was the only non-runner in the group. My 9 other teammates, they're either professional athletes or they're world record holder, like at some sort of marathon. And I was assigned to sit next to Camille Herron, who recently, at the time, just broke the 48-hour US ultra marathon record. And I was sat next to her, and I was like, she was like, oh, how are you, Vriko? And then I was like, I just started running 2 weeks ago. And she was like, oh, great. But then it was you being with that group of people, and along the way, realizing that doesn't matter what you do, at the end of the day, we are all trying our very best and going our own version of Further. So it is not the distance that defines us, but the fact that we are trying every day. So yeah, I decided to opt for that group of people instead of that lady at the run club.
Yeah, so this works in a couple of ways. I completely agree that you have to surround yourself with very positive people who are going to continue to reinforce you. The biggest obstacle that you have is yourself, and most likely the voice in your head that will give you 1,000 reasons why something won't work. And so I'm very curious how each of you, stifled that voice. The obstacles come forward. I think what you did is unbelievably courageous, to go and stand on a treadmill and say, from here, I'm going to get to there. And that's a big task. So the immediate surrounding of people who will reinforce you, the positive reinforcement in your own head, and it doesn't mean that you tell yourself, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to win, or I'm going to get there, but it's to tell yourself, I'm going to go on this journey, and I'm not going to get off until I get to the end, or it kills me. So that's 2. What winds up happening, though, is it's a virtuous circle. So I went through a company bankruptcy. My business went bankrupt. I had to fire 60 employees. It was a devastating period of my life, and I really beat myself up over it. And then I started to call entrepreneurs. I said, can you have coffee with me? I need a shoulder to cry on. And people didn't want to have coffee with me. And I actually said to myself, I will never run another business in my life. And then I had the idea to open a members club, and I started to work towards that. And then I called my friends, the entrepreneurs, and I said, hey, I have an idea, and I want your advice, or I want your input. I want to share it with you. And at this point, I learned a very important lesson in life, which is, it's true, the universe will conspire to help you. Good people will surround you. Good people will come to you. If you are pushing for something, if you are trying to achieve a goal, if you have a dream that you're trying to pursue, the world will really conspire to help you achieve that dream. But if you call your friends up and you say, I'm feeling like a loser, and I want you to come and feel like a loser with me, you will run out of friends very quickly. So get out of that mindset. That was the journey I had to go on. I had to stop beating myself up. I had to stop being negative. I had to get a little bit of energy in my system, and then it became unstoppable, quite honestly. So that's the thing that I try to tell entrepreneurs the most, is believe in what you're doing.
And that's an amazing story. But you do have to go through a grieving process. Yeah. Like, you're going to go through a grieving process. And it will come in many different forms, and will take many different directions over the years, and you don't know how long it's going to last. And the same, with you. And you have to give the self the opportunity to have that grief in whatever form it comes, and go through it. You can't go around it, and then work out, where am I going to get my energy from now? And for everybody in the room, it will take as long or short as it needs to.
That's right. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, please, go for it. Thanks.
I have one for Max. Have you thought about rugby coaching alongside with your next endeavour, to being part of the rugby union as a coach? So you're on board with consulting and part of a team, and you're still in that zone. You can still go to sevens and be in that hole without killing yourself in the process, because your body surely has been through a lot and you can only go so far.
Just in case I didn't hear you correctly.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting a career path for Max right now?
Like coaching, like
yeah.
a rugby
so I'm going to stop you there.
Sorry.
Max is now my business partner.
I know, I'm sorry.
I don't want you diverting his attention now. Max?
No, it's a valid. I think about it a lot, because I'll never rule anything out in terms of, I just don't think I could be involved in the sport emotionally, and have no say in it individually and physically. The thought of being a coach is terrifying, because you're so emotionally invested in the sport and the team and the success of the team, but you're stood on the sidelines, and you can't have any sort of influence at all on that. But I think maybe, I might in a year's time, I could just wake up and be like, I've really, really, really missed rugby, and the only way I can get back into it is coaching. Then potentially. But I think more the detachment from it is scary.
Growing a gym is a great idea.
I know.
Of course. Oh, actually, going into really raising with Lisa women in gyms in Hong Kong, everywhere, mothers, over 40s, over 50s, the 60-year-olds. This gym mentality in Hong Kong and everywhere has got to change. It needs to be a safer environment, with more female trainers, by the way.
Yeah.
Hi.
Great.
Who've been through menopause early. Hi. And I've done Lisa's course. But the gym needs to, in some of the classes, there's a lot of females and very many male trainers. It'd be lovely if someone could really pave the way for a lot more women of all sizes, all shapes, mothers, and just opening it up. There's a huge, I look at some of the gyms, I go, oh my God, they're all guys in here, or they're all trained by, rugby guys. Yeah. And some of them have been on Lisa's course, which I was amazed to see and so happy. But but you can get so many more women in if, really tailor it. I don't know. We're missing a lot of the over 40s in the gyms.
Agreed. There's a business called Curves in the States, a gym for women, exclusively for women, which built exactly on that idea. Gyms can be horribly intimidating environments. Anyway, I'm going to, you guys can chat about gyms in a second. I'm going to just wrap up with one final question for our panelists, which is, can you define success? What does success look like for you moving forward? You've all had success in the past. Have you got a definition of success moving forward?
You want to go first?
And you all get to think about your own answer for that question.
Yeah, I can give it a go off the cuff.
Go.
We talk about that. What was the shift from
From fluid to crystallized.
Yeah. If I can run, I would be very, very happy to run to day to day, be coaching and training individual clients from every single demographic, or athletes, non-athletes, mums, kids into the gym, anything. If I can be doing that day to day and helping them become better versions of themselves physically, and then in turn mentally, whilst facilitating a lifestyle that I enjoy in Hong Kong, I'll be happy.
Yeah, beautiful. And I don't know if you remember, but that was the conversation that we had 18 months ago in the Tin Shed, was about the mental health aspect of training and how important that is. Anyhow, yeah. Vriko.
The honest answer is I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Because
that's a good answer.
Yeah, because I think business-wise, we are expanding to different markets. We're doing different things. So there are just so many things going on that I don't think I can get to like the free, the freestyle, like more of like I can be free while operating my business yet. So I don't have that for my professional life. For my life as an athlete, I think my goal going forward, my definition of success going forward is I want to be able to go back to jiu-jitsu, competitive jiu-jitsu, because I put it aside for the past year. And I still want to get my black belt by the time I turn 40. So
fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Lisa. Go ahead. Just keep going. Yeah.
I want to be on the computer in every corporate organization in the world.
Wow.
Helping women reach their full potential so that all organizations can be menopause inclusive.
Fantastic.
Big deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our three panelists. Thank you. Thank you.